Have you ever wondered why some people do everything right? They work hard, they dream big, they even read all the self-help books, but somehow their life never really changes. They wake up, go to work, talk about their goals, post about success. But deep inside, nothing truly moves. It's like something invisible holds them back. Something they can't quite see, but they feel it. Every time they try to take a step forward. Napoleon Hill called that invisible force your subconscious mind. And he said, until you master it, you'll forever live below your potential. Most people think success is about hustle, or talent, or luck. But Napoleon Hill discovered something far deeper, something even he didn't shout about in every book. It's the law behind the law of attraction. It's the machine inside your brain that doesn't care what you say you want. It only gives you what you believe you deserve. When Hill interviewed the richest men of his time, Carnegie, Ford, Edison, he noticed a strange pattern. Each of them had an inner certainty, a subconscious program that told them, I am meant to do this. They didn't just dream of success. They were already living as if success had no choice but to meet them halfway. And that's when Hill realized something almost terrifying. The subconscious mind doesn't work for you, or against you. It simply obeys you. But not your words, not your affirmations. It obeys the feelings, beliefs, and emotional truths you carry deep inside, even the ones you never say out loud. Most people don't realize their subconscious is already programmed, not by them, but by everything they've seen, heard, and feared since childhood. Think about it. Every time someone told you, you're not smart enough, money doesn't grow on trees, people like us can't have that, your subconscious was listening. And over time, those ideas stopped being opinions. They became truths. Truths you didn't choose, but truths you live by. Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Everyone quotes that line, but almost no one understands it. Because most people can conceive success. They can imagine it but they don't truly believe it. Their conscious mind says, I want to be rich. Their subconscious whispers, I don't deserve it. Their conscious mind says, I'll find love. Their subconscious whispers, I'm not enough. And guess which one wins? Every single time. The truth is, your subconscious runs your life more than you think. It decides how confident you sound in a meeting. It decides whether you take the risk or stay silent. It decides how much money you think you're allowed to make before you start self-sabotaging. It's the autopilot behind every lucky break or bad pattern in your story. And if you've ever wondered why your life keeps replaying the same struggles, the same heartbreaks, the same failures, the same anxiety, it's not fate. It's your programming. Napoleon Hill believed that thinking was the highest power of man. But he didn't mean overthinking. He meant directed thought that pierces the subconscious like a laser. He called it autosuggestion. It's the secret art of convincing your subconscious to serve your highest vision instead of your deepest fear. He said, every day stand before a mirror and tell your mind what you expect from it. But he didn't mean robotic repetition. He meant speaking with conviction until your subconscious finally believes you. Because once it does, it will bend your behavior, your perception, even your reality to match that belief. Think of your subconscious like the soil of your life. You can't plant weeds and expect roses. If you plant doubt, you'll grow delay. If you plant fear, you'll grow excuses. But if you plant faith, real, emotional faith, your actions, habits, and even opportunities will begin to transform in ways you can't rationally explain. That's not magic. That's alignment. Most people never reprogram their subconscious because it's painful. It means facing the ugly truth that you, not your past, are responsible for what happens next. You can't say, I'll change tomorrow. You can't say, once I get the money, I'll be confident. It doesn't work that way. You have to become the person first, and then life follows your lead. That's the hidden law Hill discovered. Your subconscious doesn't respond to conditions, it creates them. You think you'll start believing once you see results. But results only come after belief. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man Hill interviewed, a quiet, Unknown salesman who dreamed of success but couldn't seem to make it happen. He said he'd tried everything, new strategies, harder work, longer hours, nothing changed. Hill asked him one question. When you picture yourself, who do you see? The man laughed nervously and said, an average guy trying to make it. Hill smiled and said, that's your problem. You cannot become what you secretly don't believe you are. That man left the interview, and for 6 months he practiced something simple. Every morning he repeated, I am the best salesman in this city. Not with arrogance, but with conviction. He started dressing like it, speaking like it, expecting it, and a year later he became the top salesman in his company. What changed? Not the market, not luck. His subconscious image. And maybe that's what you need too, because maybe your problem isn't that you don't know what to do. Maybe you already do. But a part of you doesn't feel worthy of the life you want. Maybe that's the invisible battle no one talks about. The war between the version of you that dreams and the version that doubts. And until you face that, you'll keep living 2 lives. The one you imagine and the one you tolerate. Napoleon Hill once said, your only limitation is the one you set up in your own mind. And now you understand what he meant. Your mind isn't just thoughts. It's an entire universe built from emotion, memory, belief, and repetition. Reprogramming it isn't about pretending to be positive. It's about building emotional evidence, step by step, until your subconscious starts working for you, not against you. You have to teach it a new story. You have to feed it new words, new feelings, new experiences, until the old identity dies of hunger. And that takes courage, because it means giving up who you were, to become who you were meant to be. So here's the truth. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are programmed. And like any program, it can be rewritten. But it starts today, not when life is perfect, not when motivation hits, but now, in this exact moment, when your mind is still trying to convince you it's not the right time, because that's your old subconscious trying to survive. So close your eyes and whisper this to yourself, and not as a wish, but as a command. I am the master of my mind. My thoughts serve me, not control me. My subconscious works for my vision, not my fears. And I will no longer be a prisoner of my past. You don't have to believe it right now. Just keep saying it until your subconscious finally does. Because when it does, everything changes. This is the hidden law Napoleon Hill never fully revealed. The truth that the outer world always mirrors the inner one. And if you learn to master your inner programming, your life will stop being random and start being yours. They say people don't decide their futures. They decide their habits. And their habits decide their futures. But Napoleon Hill discovered something deeper. Before habits comes belief. Before belief comes programming. You can't change your actions until you change the unseen script inside you that keeps whispering who you are. I used to think success was about adding more hustle, more knowledge, more effort. But the truth? Real transformation is not about adding. It's about deleting the wrong instructions that your mind has been following for years. Because most people are running their lives on outdated code, a program written by fear, rejection, and survival. Every time you failed, your subconscious took notes. Every heartbreak, every rejection, every bad grade, every time you were told no, your subconscious wrote it down. And now, years later, it still reads from that same script. That's why you can feel brave one day and powerless the next. That's why you can make plans but never finish them. It's not lack of motivation, it's mental residue. Napoleon Hill said, thoughts mixed with emotion become magnetized. He didn't mean just positive ones. Even the painful ones magnetize. If you felt small once, your subconscious still carries that feeling. If you felt ignored, it still protects you by keeping you safe in the background. You think you're playing it smart by staying quiet, staying comfortable, staying unseen. But really, your subconscious is just replaying your protection mode. Hill believed you can't build wealth or power with a mind that fears visibility. He wrote that every successful person has first conquered their inner enemy. And that enemy is not laziness. It's self-doubt. Because doubt doesn't shout, it whispers. It whispers, you can try later. It whispers, you're not ready yet. And before you know it, years pass and the dream becomes memory. There's one story Hill often told in private, about a young man who came to him with frustration. The man said, I read your book, Think and Grow Rich. I believe in your philosophy, but nothing is changing. Hill looked at him and asked, how often do you see yourself rich? The man frowned. Every day I try to imagine it. Hill nodded slowly and said, try? You don't try to see yourself rich. You feel it, until your body believes you already are. That's the difference. The subconscious doesn't understand words. It understands vibration, emotion, repetition. You can't think your way into success. You have to feel your way into it. So how do you start? Not by lying to yourself, but by emotionally teaching your subconscious that the old story is over. Napoleon Hill called this emotional transmutation, taking the energy of pain, fear, or desire and turning it into power. It's the process of saying, yes, I was hurt, but I'm not living there anymore. Think about it like this. Every thought is a seed, but emotion is the water. You can plant I am strong all you want, but if you water it with fear, it won't grow. If you water it with doubt, it'll die before it sprouts. But if you water it with faith, not blind hope, but emotional certainty, it will root so deeply that no setback can pull it out. That's what Hill meant when he said, faith is the only known antidote to failure. Faith isn't religion. It's repetition of belief until your subconscious stops arguing. Here's something no one talks about. Your subconscious is always eavesdropping on your environment. Who you talk to, what you watch, what you listen to before you sleep. It's all part of your mental diet. If your environment is full of negativity, gossip, or fear, your subconscious will adapt to it. And that's why most people never rise above the level of their surroundings. Hill warned about this decades ago, he said. Guard your mind as you would guard your life. Because the wrong energy doesn't just affect your mood, it rewires your destiny. There's a man I once met, let's call him David. He wasn't rich. He wasn't special. But he was curious. Every morning, before touching his phone, he played a 10-minute audio of affirmations, not just words, but music that made him feel. He said, I don't know if this works, but it makes me start my day believing I can do something great. A year later, his business took off. Not because of luck, but because every morning, his subconscious started expecting success instead of fearing failure. And when your subconscious expects success, it makes you act like it even when no one's watching. Hill called that auto-conditioning. It's how you take control back from your environment. You start feeding your mind intentionally, the same way you'd feed your body. You wouldn't eat garbage every day and expect to be healthy, so why let garbage fill your mind? If you want to reprogram your subconscious, your input must match your desired output. Stop listening to what drains you. Start listening to what grows you. Stop hanging around people who remind you of your limits. Start being around those who remind you of your potential. Napoleon Hill once said, tell me what you habitually think about, and I'll tell you who you are. If your thoughts are full of doubt, you'll find proof that you can't. If your thoughts are full of faith, you'll find proof that you can. Because the subconscious doesn't care whether you're right or wrong. It only looks for confirmation. Napoleon Hill called this emotional transmutation, taking the energy of pain, fear, or desire and turning it into power. It's the process of saying, yes, I was hurt, but I'm not living there anymore. Think about it like this. Every thought is a seed, but emotion is the water. You can plant I am strong all you want, but if you water it with fear, it won't grow. If you water it with doubt, it'll die before it sprouts. So if you say, I always fail, your subconscious will help you fail just to stay consistent. If you say, I am unstoppable, it will help you find reasons to keep going, again, just to stay consistent. That's how powerful the need for internal consistency is. You are always right about yourself, because your subconscious will make sure of it. Let's pause here for a second. Look at your life right now, the people in it, the money in your account, the peace in your mind. They're not random. They're reflections of what your subconscious believes you deserve. If you want to change what you see outside, why change what you believe inside? Hill didn't say, think and wait. He said, think and grow. Growth happens when thought becomes faith, and faith becomes action who remind you of your limits. Start being around those who remind you of your potential. Napoleon Hill once said, "Tell me what you habitually think about, and I'll tell you who you are." If your thoughts are full of doubt, you'll find proof that you can't. If your thoughts are full of faith, you'll find proof that you can, because the subconscious doesn't care whether you're right or wrong. It only looks for confirmation. So, tonight before you sleep, try this. Close your eyes, and instead of replaying your day, replay your destiny. See yourself living the life you want, but not as a dreamer. See it like a memory that already happened. Notice how it feels, how it smells, how it sounds, because that's how your subconscious learns, through sensory emotion, not logic. The more real you make it in your mind, the faster it becomes real in your world. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between imagination and experience. It only knows repetition. And that's why you must be careful what you rehearse in your head. Because whatever you rehearse, you will eventually live. This is where most people stop, right when it starts working. Because the old subconscious doesn't go quietly, it fights back. When you try to believe in yourself, your mind will whisper, "Who do you think you are?" When you try to grow, it will remind you of every time you failed. When you try to change, it will say, "People don't really change." That's the defense system. It's not evil, it's habit. But if you can stand through that resistance, even just for a few weeks, the new program starts to overwrite the old one, and that's when life starts to bend toward your faith. Napoleon Hill called it the turning point of consciousness. He said, the moment you realize that your thoughts are things, you become dangerous. Dangerous, not to others but to mediocrity, to fear, to limitation. Because once you truly know that your subconscious is programmable, there's no going back to victimhood. You stop blaming luck. You stop waiting for timing. You start commanding your own mind. And that's when miracles start to look like logic. The truth is simple. You are not chasing success. You are chasing alignment. When your conscious desire and your subconscious belief finally agree, the universe doesn't have a choice. It has to deliver. That's the hidden law Hill never fully revealed. Not because he wanted to hide it, but because words can only point to it. You have to feel it to understand it. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into how to erase mental patterns, release emotional anchors, and rebuild the subconscious identity that aligns with who you're becoming. Because once you change the inside, the outside follows. Always imagine your subconscious mind as a silent architect and tirelessly designing the structure of your life while you're not even aware of it. It doesn't argue, it doesn't question, it accepts. Whatever you plant inside it, it grows, good or bad. Napoleon Hill said it perfectly. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But he didn't stop there. What he truly meant, and what most people missed, is that your subconscious doesn't work by chance. It works by repetition and emotion. Every single thought charged with emotion, whether it's fear, anger, love, or faith, becomes a seed, and your subconscious, like fertile soil, will make it real in your physical world. The reason people fail isn't lack of intelligence or luck. It's because they unconsciously plant weeds while expecting roses. They dwell on doubt, fear, and limitation, and then wonder why their life feels stuck. Now think about it. You can't outsmart your subconscious. You can only retrain it. You can't fake belief. Your subconscious always knows the truth. When Hill wrote about autosuggestion, he was giving the formula to reshape your mind from within. Autosuggestion isn't just saying, "I'm confident." It's about making your subconscious feel that confidence is reality. Every morning, every night, your self-talk becomes the script your subconscious memorizes, and the universe simply mirrors it back. Hill discovered something profound. Your subconscious doesn't recognize failure. It only acts on dominant thoughts. When fear dominates, it creates limitation. When faith dominates, it creates miracles. That's why people who hold a vision with unshakable belief always end up bending reality toward them. Their subconscious is already living in the result before the result arrives. So here's the truth. To reprogram your subconscious, you must emotionally engage with the life you desire. You must see it, feel it, believe it long before you live it. Every time you visualize your dream with feeling, every time you act as if you're writing a new code in your subconscious. Napoleon Hill hinted that the subconscious is like a bridge between the finite mind and infinite intelligence. It's how your desires communicate with the universe. When you're emotionally aligned with what you want, you don't need to chase, it starts to find you. You start noticing new opportunities, meeting the right people, and attracting ideas that move you forward. It's not magic. It's the law of vibration, the subconscious, aligning you with what you already believe you deserve. But here's the twist. Your subconscious doesn't care what's true. It only cares what's repeated. If you tell yourself every day that you're unlucky, it will create circumstances to prove you right. If you affirm daily that you are powerful, capable, and deserving, it will build that reality for you. The question is, what are you repeating to yourself right now? Hill's hidden law wasn't just about desire or faith. It was about control. Control over the invisible part of yourself that governs 95% of your behavior. And once you master that, you don't just change your result, you change who you are. Your subconscious doesn't speak English, French, or Hindi. It speaks the language of emotion, repetition, and imagery. So speak to it in the language it understands. Fill your mind with the picture of the life you want, and repeat it until it becomes your identity. Because once your subconscious accepts a belief, your entire world rearranges itself to match it. That's how you stop drifting, and start creating. Everything you think, feel, or imagine is energy. It moves, vibrates, and attracts. Napoleon Hill understood this decades before quantum physics began to whisper the same truth. Everything in existence is vibration, but Hill didn't talk about this as abstract philosophy. He described it as a practical science of success. He said that the subconscious mind acts as the connecting link between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence. What he meant was that every emotion, every thought you hold long enough, sends out a frequency in the universe, like a mirror, echoes it back in form of opportunities, events, and people. Now, here's where it gets powerful. Hill discovered something called the transmutation of energy. It's the idea that the strongest human emotions, like love, desire, faith, or even sexual energy, can be redirected and refined into creative power. Instead of wasting emotional energy on worry, doubt, or temporary pleasure, you can channel that same energy into a definite purpose. Most people don't fail because they lack energy. They fail because their energy is scattered. They wake up with a spark of inspiration, but by night their energy is consumed by distractions, envy, or fear. Hill knew that true success isn't about adding more effort. It's about directing existing energy with precision. He once wrote that the world is filled with an abundance of opportunity, which the dreamers of the past never knew. But those opportunities only become visible when your energy is aligned, when your mind, emotions, and purpose are in harmony. Think of your subconscious as a power plant. The thoughts you feed into it are like raw materials. Fearful thoughts generate tension and fatigue. Inspired thoughts generate creative energy. If you constantly tell yourself you're tired, your body responds in kind. But if you decide to act as if you are unstoppable, and your subconscious believes it, your body releases energy you didn't know you had. Napoleon Hill taught that every form of energy can be transformed into another. Sexual energy can become creative genius. Pain can become purpose. Failure can become power. The key lies in awareness. To recognize what emotion is dominating you, and then redirect it into something productive. This is what he meant by emotional alchemy. The same fire that burns your spirit when you're angry can fuel your determination if you redirect it. The same heartbreak that drowns some people can awaken greatness in others. The question isn't, do you have energy? It's, where are you sending it? Your subconscious doesn't care whether you use your energy to destroy or to build. It simply obeys your emotional focus. If you dwell on resentment, it will multiply it. If you dwell on vision, it will amplify it. Hill's brilliance lay in understanding how to consciously transmute energy into purpose. He advised people to turn every disappointment into fuel, to view pain as raw power waiting for refinement. He knew that every human being has access to infinite creative energy, but only a few learn how to use it. And here's the paradox. The more emotionally disciplined you become, the more freedom you experience. People think discipline kills creativity, but Hill saw it as the opposite. Discipline frees your energy from chaos and channels it toward creation. He wrote, "The man who masters himself through self-discipline and willpower becomes unstoppable." Why? Because he no longer reacts to circumstances, he creates them. His subconscious, charged with directed energy, becomes a magnet for opportunity. Look at any great achiever. Every one of them unknowingly followed this law. They didn't just have dreams. They embodied them. Their energy was fused with intention. You too have that power. Every time you resist the urge to waste energy, whether in gossip, self-doubt, or mindless scrolling, you reclaim it. You take that raw current and redirect it into thought, strategy, and creation. That's what Hill meant when he said, "The greatest among us are those who control their thoughts, direct their emotions, and shape their destiny." So the next time you feel frustrated, don't suppress it. Transmute it. Ask yourself, how can I use this emotion to create something better? Because every emotion, when refined, becomes energy, and every form of energy can become power. That's how geniuses think. That's how visionaries build empires. And that's how ordinary men and women become extraordinary, not by luck, but by mastering the energy within. You can reprogram your subconscious all you want, but unless you learn to direct the energy behind your emotions, your progress will be temporary. Control your energy, and you control your destiny. Because the subconscious mind doesn't just record your beliefs, it responds to your vibration. And once that vibration aligns with faith, purpose, and gratitude, nothing in the world can stop what's coming for you. Napoleon Hill said it in the clearest way possible. There is one quality which one must possess to win, and that is definiteness of purpose, the knowledge of what one wants, and a burning desire to possess it. Most people never reach their true potential because they never decide what they actually want. They live their entire lives reacting to problems, to people, to circumstances, but never acting with a clear direction. Hill believed that a drifting mind is the greatest tragedy of human existence. He even wrote an entire book about it, Outwitting the Devil. In it, the devil isn't a red creature with horns. It's the force of distraction, fear, and aimlessness that lives in every one of us. The devil whispers, "You have time. You can do it tomorrow." And most people believe that voice. But definiteness of purpose kills that voice. It gives your mind a command. It tells your subconscious what to believe, what to pursue, and what to ignore. Without a definite purpose, your subconscious is like a ship without a captain. It may be full of energy, full of potential, but it will drift wherever the wind blows. Hill explained that every successful person he studied, from Henry Ford to Thomas Edison, had one trait in common. They knew exactly what they wanted. Not vaguely, not someday, but with precision. They made their purpose so clear that their subconscious mind could see it, feel it, and live it. The mind can't attract what it doesn't clearly understand. If your goal is foggy, your results will be foggy. But when your purpose becomes a burning obsession, your subconscious will start aligning every thought, every habit, and every person around you toward that outcome. Here's the truth Hill uncovered. Your subconscious doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to commands backed by emotion. Saying, "I want to be successful," means nothing. But saying, "I will build a business that frees my family from debt within 3 years. And I'll give every ounce of effort I have until it happens," that's a definite purpose. That's when your subconscious starts to listen. Most people change goals every few months. They chase new opportunities, trends, or dreams. They never stay long enough for their subconscious to gain momentum. Hill compared this to planting seeds and digging them up every week to check if they're growing. You kill the growth every time you doubt it. Your subconscious is fertile soil. Whatever you plant, and whether fear or faith, it will grow. The tragedy is that most people plant a little bit of both. They say, "I'll do it," and in the same breath think, "But what if I fail?" So their subconscious receives a mixed signal and stays neutral. Definiteness of purpose solves that. It turns your belief into a single frequency, a laser instead of a flashlight. Now here's something people miss when they read Think and Grow Rich. Hill wasn't talking only about money. He was talking about alignment. When you have a definite purpose, everything in you, thoughts, emotions, body, habits, and moves in the same direction. That's when you enter what Hill called the flow of infinite intelligence. This is when strange coincidences begin to happen. You meet the right person at the right time. You stumble upon an idea or opportunity that feels like destiny. Hill said these moments aren't luck. They're the response of the subconscious mind, which connects to infinite intelligence and rearranges your environment to match your dominant purpose. You might have noticed it yourself. When you truly focus on something and say, buying a new car or learning a new skill, suddenly you start noticing it everywhere. That's your subconscious filtering reality according to your dominant thought. Now imagine applying that same level of focus to your life purpose. The truth is, you can't reprogram your subconscious if you don't give it a clear program. Your definite purpose is that program. But Hill warned about one more thing. Your purpose must serve others. He said no one can attain great success without first giving something of value in return. When your goal uplifts others, your subconscious mind works with greater harmony because your purpose aligns with universal law, the law of growth and contribution. Think about it. People like Edison, Carnegie, or Ford didn't just chase money. They pursued ideas that improved millions of lives. The result? Money followed naturally. Definiteness of purpose creates magnetism. It turns you into someone people trust, follow, and invest in because you know where you're going. Here's a challenge Napoleon Hill might have given you today. Take one piece of paper. Write in one sentence what you truly want and make it specific. Then ask yourself, would I be willing to give the next 10 years of my life to this? Would I wake up early and sleep late for this? Would I risk failure for this? If the answer is yes, that's your purpose. That's what your subconscious will fight for. And once your purpose becomes definite, your fears become small. Your doubts fade because you're no longer negotiating with yourself. You've decided. Hill said, when the mind is made up, the way can always be found. That's the hidden law, the one most people ignore. You don't wait for motivation to find purpose. You find purpose and motivation begins to flow naturally. Because when your subconscious finally has a single direction, it stops drifting and starts creating. Faith, a small word, but in Napoleon Hill's philosophy, it's the engine behind everything. Not the kind of faith that waits for miracles, but the kind that creates them. Hill said, faith is the eternal elixir that gives life, power and action to the impulse of thought. He didn't mean faith in a religious sense only. He meant belief in yourself, in your purpose, and in your vision, so strong that doubt cannot exist in the same room. When Hill studied hundreds of successful people, Edison, Ford, Carnegie, Rockefeller, he found something striking. None of them began with certainty. They began with faith. They started before they were ready. They acted before they were sure. And they persisted long after everyone else quit. Faith is not about knowing you will win. It's about deciding you won't stop trying until you do. And that decision reprograms your subconscious more deeply than any affirmation, any course, any book ever could. When your conscious mind says, I can't, but your subconscious mind has been trained to say, yes, I will, that's when your transformation begins. Hill said your subconscious will only believe what you feed it consistently, and persistence is how you keep feeding it. Every day, the average person has thousands of thoughts, and most are the same as yesterday. Doubt, worry, regret, comparison. But persistent faith replaces that loop. It's not one big action, it's 1,000 small acts of courage. Getting out of bed when you feel empty, writing that one paragraph when you want to quit, taking one small risk even when no one believes in you. That's how the subconscious learns new rules. It watches you. It records every choice you make. And over time, it begins to believe the pattern you repeat most often. That's why Hill warned, persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel. Without it, your potential remains soft, easily bent by fear, failure, or people's opinions. Most people fail not because they lack intelligence or talent, but because they surrender too soon. They stop 1 inch away from gold. And every time you quit, your subconscious learns one lesson: giving up is safe. It rewires itself to avoid pain rather than to create growth. But when you persist, truly persist, even in silence, even in pain, even when results are invisible, your subconscious starts to respect you. It begins to say, "He doesn't give up anymore. He keeps his word." That's when your self-belief becomes unshakable. You might not see it at first, but something changes inside you. Your mind becomes calmer. Decisions become easier. Fear loses its grip. That's faith working, not blind faith, but trained faith. Hill said faith is built through repetition of belief, not wishful thinking. You don't wait to feel confident. You act as if you already are. Because every time you act in faith, your subconscious sees evidence. And the subconscious only believes evidence, what it can observe repeatedly. He called it autosuggestion, the deliberate repetition of belief and purpose until your subconscious accepts it as reality. At first it feels fake, like you're lying to yourself. But over time, the mind stops questioning and starts obeying. You've seen it before. Athletes who visualize victory every day, business owners who see success long before it happens. That's faith in motion. Faith doesn't guarantee the outcome. It guarantees the effort, and effort, multiplied by persistence, shapes the subconscious into a relentless ally. Hill believed your subconscious is not just a mental system. It's your direct connection to infinite intelligence, what others might call God, the universe, or higher consciousness. When you hold a thought with faith and persistence, it sends a signal to that higher power, and in response, life begins to move around you. People, opportunities, coincidences all aligning to help you. You've felt it before. The right call at the right time, the unexpected solution, the sudden clarity after weeks of confusion. That's not coincidence. That's your subconscious and the universe working in harmony. But harmony requires alignment, and alignment requires trust. You can't command your subconscious with fear. You can only guide it with faith. Hill once said, "When faith is blended with thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into its spiritual equivalent, and transmits it to infinite intelligence." That means that your beliefs don't just stay inside your head. They broadcast. They shape what you notice, who you meet, and what you attract. So if you constantly broadcast fear, you'll find more reasons to be afraid. But if you persist in faith, you'll start finding reasons to believe. This is the final transformation. Hill talked about when your conscious mind and subconscious mind finally agree. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions move in the same direction. When you no longer chase success, you embody it. Because faith doesn't make things easy, it makes them possible. That's why Hill ended Think and Grow Rich with one word repeated throughout. Believe, not hope, not wish. Believe, as if it were already true. So here's what I'll leave you with. Tonight before you sleep, close your eyes and say, "I already have what I seek. I already am what I'm becoming." Repeat it with calm conviction. And when doubt whispers tomorrow, repeat it again. Because every repetition is a seed, every belief a command, and every act of faith a step closer to the life you were meant to live. Napoleon Hill didn't just teach how to grow rich. He taught how to grow certain. And when your faith and persistence merge with a definite purpose, your subconscious doesn't just help you reach success, it becomes success itself. That's the final secret Hill left for those who truly listen. Your reality will always follow your faith, so have faith that's worth following.